What made you move out of your parents' house? Too many adults under one roof. Needed to branch off and be my own person in my own space. Yeah, I love my parents, and I honestly have a great relationship with them. In fact, I'm moving across the country to be near them in about a month, and I'll be living with them for a bit while I search for my own place. However, when I live with them, I struggle to act as an independent adult. It's as much my fault as everyone else's, but I still prefer living on my own long term. We didn't have a house. We lived in an apartment. I had been paying half the rent since I was 15. One day I get home, my mom's packing bags. I asked, "What's up, where is she going?" She said she was going to go stay with my sister and see my nieces. I was like, okay, cool, see you in a few days, I guess. I get a call 2 weeks later that she isn't coming back and already told the landlord I'd be out in 24 hours. I called the landlord, told him I had no idea what was going on. He gave me a month to move out, put all my mom's stuff in storage, and started life on my own. To this day, I don't know why she chose to up and leave me. I've asked her, and she just says she missed my nieces and wanted to be with them. Really going to drop a 17 years, give them 24 hours to move out. Took a long time to get over. Whoa, how are you now? In good house, 2 cars, workaholic, average American. Can't be too hard on my mom now. All her partying caught up to her. Brain issues, seizures, diagnosed with Alzheimer's. I commend you for not losing faith in life and humanity. You could have given up. Give yourself a pat on the back. You done well. Mom was downsizing due to financial difficulties and didn't have room for me in the new apartment. So, I struck a deal with the manager of the little restaurant where I work part-time to rent a room from him and his wife while I finished high school. It was a good growing up experience. The only downside was I'm pretty sure my manager didn't bother mentioning to his wife that some awkward pimple-faced 17-year-old would be moving in until that Saturday morning when I was dragging all my crap through their living room towards the back bedroom. She gave me a frosty reception, and frankly, I couldn't blame her. If you're trying to finish high school and you're only 17, why would your mom get an apartment without room for the both of you? Why not wait until you're moved out or get a larger one? Wake up, happy birthday, now pack your things and get the fuck out of my house. The sheriff showed up later that afternoon and escorted me off the property. I spent the remainder of the evening curled up in a ball, in the furthest corner I could find, in a men's homeless shelter. Thank you everyone for your kind words and concerns. I'm 41 now, married with 2 stepchildren of my own. They are loved and treated well. I refuse to continue the shitty parent cycle, and although my 20s were very rough, I began to shine in my 30s, and here I am, enjoying my 40s. They lost the house, someone else bought it. I bought the house and now they live with me. I found Jesse Pinkman. I went to college. When I graduated, I moved back until I could find my own place. After a week of living there, I felt it was time to go. I had a fine childhood and my parents are nice and all, but my dad went right back to treating me like a high schooler. Like if he wanted me to do something around the house, I had to do it right then. Like I didn't just work 8 hours like everybody else. The funny thing is, he told me that I had 6 months to find my own place, which is fine. This was in 2006. I asked him to co-sign on an apartment, and moved out after 2 weeks of living there. He then told me he was joking about the 6 months. I think he missed me. LOL, my mom did this to me too. Mom, pay me rent and you have 6 months to find somewhere else to live. Me, okay. Starts the process of getting off parents' insurance, phone plan, etc. and buys a house a state away. Should add I did all this alone because their credit is so bad they could never co-sign anything I did. Mom, no, not like that. You can stay here as long as you keep paying rent. As if it was an honor to be paying money to have an 8 p.m. curfew with roommates who would come into my room at all hours to shout at me for no reason, or shout at each other, or shout at their animals, and had access to my bank account to take money whenever they wanted. Now as an older adult she wants to move in with me. Nah. I'll support her retirement by pooling money with my brother to put her in a retirement home so she's not out on the street, but I can't live with that again. Raising the rent to paying half of his mortgage while I was 17 and had barely gotten my first job. Talk about killing your kid's economic future. It was easy decision to move out. Alcoholic, smoked like a chimney. You live and move on. My 18-year-old son just dropped out of school. As of this month, he owes $450 month plus 1-2 bills as it's just the two of us. 12 months from now, I'm gonna give him the $5,400 he's paid and ask him to leave. I didn't want to turn my parents' place into a whorehouse, so I got a whorehouse of my own. It's not a whorehouse, it's a whore home. With blackjack and hookers, presumably. She kicked me out the day after my 18th birthday, because I turned 18, and dropped me at a homeless shelter with a small laundry basket of clothing and no money. My dad trying to hang himself with a pair of long johns from the ceiling fan in my room. He's still alive, but I will never forget he did that just because I planned to move out in the summer. Instead, I moved out that day. What the fuck? Extreme Catholic mother. Literal psychopath father. Out at age 16. College. But I would have moved out at 18 no matter what. I couldn't wait to not live with my parents anymore. I'm with you there, buddy. My parents were loving, caring, and supportive. But I could not wait to move out and lead my life the way I wanted, by my terms and my rules. Going to college. Finally, a normal answer. Was dating a girl at the time and needed my own space. This. I wanted to have sex in a less awkward fashion. Joke's on me, still awkward. Sir, this is a library. Mom's boyfriend beat the crap out of me. Cops had to pull him off of me. They put a temporary restraining order on him so he couldn't come near me. They decided I'd be the one to move out. I was 15. Fuck him and your mom. I'm sorry it turned out like that. What a POS. My fiancée, now wife, wanted to move out before the wedding, so we got an apartment. But also, it was restricting doing anything at home. It was always crowded too, as it was my wife and I, both parents, and my aunt and uncle. Couldn't go anywhere without someone there. And street parking was annoying as hell. Living in the Bay Area, people have a lot of cars. So fighting for parking was normal with the neighbors. Sometimes we'd have to shuffle the cars around to get in or out in a convenient order. It was nice moving out though because we got to have a space for ourselves. And could be loud or quiet. And we have designated parking spots at our apartment. We also adopted 2 cats at some point. Finally, we can fuck. I'm in the mid of moving out, and there was one reason. Ever since my mom got her tubes tied, she and especially my dad makes it obvious what a sex life they have. They openly talk about their positions, their toys, my dad's dick inside her, etc. even while eating, and if I dare say something, I'm called sensitive. They did it before but kept it very much hidden until recently. They kept it hidden before, why now? It got so into detail that I even dream of them doing it, and wake up the next day feeling confused and uncomfortable. Every room I go into, I have a mental pic of them, because they tell me and my sister what they did there. I can't shower properly without having these images. I can't make myself dinner without knowing they did it on the counter, and I can't have my own privacy. They walk into my room like it's nothing, and today my mom walked in. Despite me saying no, she was supposed to help me look for my keys, and when she saw my toys she said, "Damn, even you have better ones than I do." Even told my aunt and uncle. There was so much more going on, but I can't type it out, because I can't find the words. Luckily my therapist is helping me get out of that house, and once I am, I never want to go back there. Call me dramatic, but after hearing, "Once you two move out, we will walk around naked and fuck in every room," I don't think you want to walk back in there as well. Edit. First of all, I want to thank everyone who bothered to read my comment, and showing me that this is in fact not normal, because people often tell me that this is normal family behavior. I am aware that this is some form of abuse, but I'm still thankful to everyone who was trying to explain it to me, and for all the dickheads who forgot how to read. I'm in the mid of moving out, and there was one reason. It was literally the first sentence, keyword, mid aka middle, and luckily my therapist is helping me get out of that house. So don't come at me. Oh, he is a 34 years old dude who lives with their parents. I'm literally in the middle of moving out? I'm a 17 years old, female teenager that is literally moving out. Reading this made me physically uncomfortable. I'm glad you were able to move out. I had a therapist tell me this is sexual abuse. My mom would try to do this and I would get so incredibly angry and upset with her. But she challenged me constantly to debate why it bothered me, and I was too young to have the words. It bothered me because my mom was being sexual with me. She was verbally reliving her sex life with her daughter. That's fucking weird and yes, a form of sexual abuse. That's not normal. I'm sorry you have to go through that. Your parents have issues for exposing their children to that. Despite whatever age you may be. That's just way too much unnecessary detail. It's gross and honestly traumatic. Please get out of there ASAP. You are absolutely not wrong for feeling weirded out by the way they are talking, acting. Couldn't take the abuse any longer. I grew up and could afford it. Who wants to live with their parents forever? All these people in here with their stories, and I'm like, well, I left for school which wasn't in their town, and then got a job that wasn't in their town. It wasn't like we had a breakup. Though it is also true that I like them far better meeting for a meal than living together. But so it goes with most people. Said this on here before, but short version. Wasted 5 years of college. Became a licensed financial advisor. That job was giving me depression and I sucked at it. Quit for mental health reasons. Slummed on my parents' couch for about a year doing nothing but, woe is me, bullshit. Parents had enough of that. Argument ensued. Argument went very wrong for everyone involved. I said things to them that I regret to this day. Mom refuses to speak to me still, been 4 years now. Dad didn't deserve any of it. I was then promptly kicked out, and I was forced to live on my own. Still am to this day. Edit late response. T-checks for the comments y'all. To answer why I haven't apologized, I tried. My mom refused to acknowledge me. I can't apologize to my dad anymore because he passed away 2 weeks after I was kicked out. I can only apologize to his gravestone. That paragraph is a good start to an apology letter if you're ever looking to write one. My parents let me stay as long as I wanted. So I put most of my money away until I was 30, and then bought a house. Yes, some of my friends laughed at me for not moving out when I was in my early 20s, but they are still paying rent and I own a home. Looking for a non-restrictive environment. I could practically feel their breath on the back of my neck. Me doing all the chores while my older brother and sister don't do anything. I was already in the process of finding a place to live when I got kicked out by my mom. And it was for something I didn't even do. It's so ridiculous that I can kinda laugh about it now, but the situation was so messed up. My parents have a terrible marriage and apparently my dad decided to use something I said in an argument against my mom. Thing is, I never said the things he claimed I did. I was asleep for most of this screaming match. They happen daily, so you learn to sleep through it, and was entirely unaware that I had been thrown under the bus. Woke up the next morning to my mother waiting for me in the kitchen, going absolutely bananas yelling at me and I could not get a word in. I had to leave with no warning and just stuff as much as I could into my backpack and 2 plastic bags and dragged my belongings with me to my first year uni math lecture. Had to explain to all my friends why on earth I was dragging so much stuff around all day. Fun times s. To this day, 6 years later they still have not acknowledged that it happened and just pretend that it was a disagreement, where I was equally at fault. They were charging me more in rent and bills than they were paying themselves. Moved out and got my own place before I even had a car. I was able to save money by getting my own place. Somewhere between staining the fence, repairing the washing machine and making dinner I realized it was less work to live on my own. I was paying rent to live in the garage, with a car, laundry stuff, and plenty other junk. My sister would bring home the drugged-out losers from school daily. I kept telling my mom the shady shit they are up to, but she insisted sister could have friends over. I tried locking them out and shit hit the fan. I got kicked out. I was 20. In my absence, my sister became a heroin addict. Several failed rehabs later my parents we out of money. My family are over-controlling and super judgy. Everyone is judgmental. But they are on a different level. If you aren't like them, there's something wrong with you. So I made any excuse to love as far as possible. I'm in my mid-30s and still sorting through the issues it has given me, constantly critiquing how I think and act towards others. I ended up finding solace in ancient philosophy. It's always a bit traumatic for me to go home though. My wife thought it best if I left my parents, and we move in together. Wow, you get married and right away she wants to move in together? Red flags, man. Went to college 1,000 miles away. Foster care smiling face with sunglasses. I turned 18 and my parents gave me a full luggage set and a coupon for U-Haul for my birthday. I looked up and my dad just smiled and said, "In your own time, but before you're 19. I was gone within 2 weeks. Basically, she couldn't see anything I did as right or decent. Complained about me waking up late, because I was working from my computer and didn't need to wake up early. Complained that I never cleaned anything, and while I concede this point, it is mostly because I tried and she wasn't satisfied with the results, as she wasn't the one who did it, so it was wrong. It got to the point where she would start arguing and fighting as soon as she saw me, for any reason possible. Laundry, cleaning, or even what I ate. Again, I'll mostly concede because I didn't help as much, and whenever I tried, it wasn't good enough. So I got out. Living away from her didn't fix all problems because I share the house with other people, but it did help. I became more responsible with everything, got better at running a house and keeping it clean and functioning. Not perfect, but better than nothing. Now I see my mom once a week and we don't fight anymore because she realizes that it was a waste of time anyway. I wanted to adult. What a stupid child. I endured extreme CACSA through my childhood, got pregnant at 14 by one of the friends of my shit parents, who was one of the sick guys. I was forced to place the baby up for adoption. Really, it was for the best. A few months later, my male friend, who I always called my soul friend, who was also going through the same thing, he was 15. We ran to another friend's house for about a year. Then we left. We were together until his death. So sorry. I hope you're doing well now. My stepdad being the most anally retentive person on the planet. He's so uptight you couldn't get a Rizla paper through his arse cheeks. Same. My stepdad would set an egg timer for 7 minutes when I'd go to shower. He'd bitch if I did more than one load of laundry in a week, so I had to decide between smelly bedding or smelly clothes. One time, I had a friend over working on some homework with the door closed, playing music out of the integrated speaker on my iPod Touch. I could hear the T.V. he was watching over it. He paused it, came downstairs, stood outside my door for a few seconds, and then came in and told me to turn my music down, stating that it was somehow disturbing him. He was always complaining that the utilities were too high, but he'd run the central air conditioning from May until October. But the culprit was always my load of blankets or 9-minute shower. You could literally see your breath in the finished basement all summer. By the time I was 17, I had to stop using the kitchen because a drawer was always slightly ajar, there was a crumb in the sink, or I'd stolen something of theirs out of the fridge. Big surprise there wasn't, and I didn't. They started charging me rent and made me buy my own food when I was 16, and I thought it would get better like my mother said it would after I started contributing. Spoiler alert. It didn't. Around 17, I just got fed up with it and started pretending he didn't exist. I'd stay in the shower past the timer and push past him standing outside the door when I'd leave the bathroom. He'd always try and ambush me when I'd get home from somewhere, in the kitchen or outside the bathroom, and I just wouldn't acknowledge he was there. After a while, I started getting the complaints through my mother, and she would always advocate some kind of mythical compromise, but it didn't matter what I did. The result was always the same. He always kept his mouth shut when I actually got into trouble and left it to my mother, but I literally couldn't leave my room without him whining or getting upset about something. The dog barked when I went up the creaky stairs to get a glass of water or came home after a night shift. I was getting too many things in the mail. I shouldn't work so much. A teenager should have a social life. You're spending too much time with your friends. How are you going to pay rent and buy groceries? I finally snapped and got a seasonal camp job for the summer at 18 and left with no notice. On the bus back to my city, I just couldn't bear the thought of going back there, so I called a friend and ended up renting a room with his family instead until I could find a new full-time job and support myself. I wasn't even sure if I was interested in having a relationship with my family until after I got settled into my new place and job. Him and my mother got married, and 9 years later, she still asks why I only visit a few times a year despite only living in the next neighborhood. For a long time, I've been brutally honest when she asks, yet she still asks the same question, like she's going to get a different answer. Every year or so she lets me know they're talking about divorce and asks if that would help us become closer or if I think she should. I just tell her that she's an adult and should only worry about her own happiness. Removing him from the picture is moot because I've already done that, and we likely will never be close like you want. I love my mother, But I don't think I can forgive her for being a bystander while I was harassed in my own home like that. Rant over. Reddit is cheaper than therapy. Got kicked out at 19 for owning a fleshlight that my mom found in my dresser. She was a hyper-religious Mormon and I was an atheist, and still am, so we pretty much hated each other, and she moved all my stuff out one day while I was at work. She had also promised me free rent if I continued to go to college and moved to Utah with her, but demanded it from my meager paycheck once we were there, and that was also a problem. I passed a medical university in another city. My mother only allowed me to leave her house because I didn't pass here. She still makes video calls every day and begs me to come back to her house on weekends and holidays. You Americans are crazy. However crazy you think we are, double it. My mother only allowed me to leave. You Americans are crazy. Hold up. Physical abuse, screaming matches, theft, and the fact they resented the fact that Biomom wasn't successful in her attempt to off me in my crib. They mellowed out a bit, but they still treat me like shit, and the closest thing to an apology I have gotten was, "I know we did things to you that we shouldn't have done to any child, but hey, you turned out all right. I am 39 with PTSD, a destroyed spine and jaw, and have been on disability since 2016. Yeah, my life is way better. Actually it is, and of that ain't the most depressing note about my life. Not saying that you shouldn't exist, but damn, your folks should never had kid. I wish you could have a nice set of parents instead of those people." When I was 19-ish, my stepdad took my clothes out of the washer when they stopped, and I didn't change them over immediately, and threw them in the backyard soaking wet, and didn't tell me until 10 minutes later when I went to change them over. We got into a screaming match, and I packed all my clothes into 2 army duffel bags, and the next day, I went to work and didn't come back. It blew the people I worked with away when I came in with 2 huge bags of clothes and said I got kicked out and was now homeless. Luckily my dad let me move in for a while. I made up with my stepdad and went into the USAF. I actually moved back in when I got out of the military because I couldn't get a job or apartment. I got home from my last duty station the week before COVID first got talked about, and it lasted for about 2 years before his drug and alcohol abuse got too much, and we had a fist fight where I beat the hell out of him, and he broke my eye socket. I haven't talked to him since last year. If he broke your eye socket, technically he beat the shit out of you too, mate. Me and my brother found a place and moved in together. I was 16, my parents were cool and everything, but my house was too small, so it was weird bringing girls back and unfair on my parents for me to smoke weed after being out with friends, so I rented my first flat. It was a spectacular mistake. What exactly went wrong? My mom was smoking my weed, so she kicked me out. I got pregnant at 17 and was told that I had gotten myself into my predicament with adult actions, so now I get to be an adult and deal with it. It was probably for the best, but my mom will often say things about helping my younger sisters with their kids like she helped me. She has built up a version of events where she was supportive, and she believes her version 100%. I was kicked out during the Great Recession after I was laid off. We love family in my family. I was every parent's dream. A law-abiding, obedient, straight-A student going to college on scholarship. I nannied, tutored, chauffeured, and cleaned up after my 3 younger sisters. My part-time income went to groceries for the family instead of luxuries or even savings for myself. But somehow Mom was unable to communicate with me in any form other than lecturing. I was never good enough. I left at 17 and never looked back. I have a chill, successful, happy life surrounded by people who appreciate me and tell me so. Mom doesn't understand why I don't call her for more lectures. My mom's new husband. Well, I was 24 already and looking for my own place to live anyway, but I wasn't really forced by anyone, so I took my time. Thing is, he's a manipulative, emotionally abusive fucker that hides behind nice smiles. No matter what you do, it's always wrong. Even if you take the biggest care, you'd still do something that's worthy of being criticized. He also was beating around the bush whenever he needed money, and no surprise, never held a job for long. I took it until I had enough and crashed on my brother's couch for a good 2 months while looking for my own place. Nowadays it's no surprise that my mom got divorced from that loser. She is controlling and wouldn't take no for an answer. Undiagnosed but heavily suspected narcissism and have a victim complex. Literally everyone left her, including all of my siblings too. We all sadly agreed that it was the best decision for each and every one of us. Parent herself is immovable. Nobody can tell her she is wrong or else she is a victim. Sad that such a human with no way to change at all. Some guy none of US news showed up at my house, looking for me, and tried to attack me in my own home. We ended up kicking the shit out of him, me, my dad, my 15-year-old brother, and my tiny Pomeranian, but after that I decided my parents didn't need to be caught up in whatever weird problems I was apparently having, and I wanted it to be harder for psychos to find me. What? Flushed face. You have absolutely no idea why a random person came into your home for no reason and attacked you, and you didn't report it or anything? Why are psychos looking for you? Rent controlled. I got a job, and they raised my parents' rent and charged them back rent. Is charging back rent even legal? Having been accepted in a good school in another city. My mom hated me. It was an easy decision. Ultra-religious, physically abusive parents. I wanted to use my full-ride scholarships to go to university. She wouldn't have let me go. You would think one's parent would be proud. Every time I turned around, her thoughts on my progress and scholarships would flip-flop in order to fit her rather insane disposition. She tried to kill me several times as well as my brother. He's blacked out a lot of it now. I will not harm him in remembering her awfulness. I will not forget. I do not have such strong feelings of distrust, much, but she is a spider. A black widow that sucks out life and fills corpses full of venom and death. I hate spiders. I want to scream how much I hate her existence. I feel ashamed to be her daughter. I sincerely wish for her demise as a human. There were many times for retribution and forgiveness, if only inquired. It's too late. I'll wear my dancing shoes when she croaks. Wow. Bought my own. Turning 18, joining the military, starting my adult life, heading to college after that, relocating to another state, starting a career. Nothing good would have came to me if I stayed. I was out of that fucking place right before my 18th, and still one of the best decisions of my life. My sister took me with her. I hit the hippie trail in 1973 as a young teenager, and never went back. Visited once in a while and was with my dad shortly before he died, but I bailed, baby. The call of the wild was too strong. Wanting my freedom back, I moved up to college when I was 20, and had zero plans of ever coming back to my home state. Well, I lost my job a few years later and had to and sucked it up for 2 years until my buddy was able to save up enough to get a place, and we moved in together. I followed my high school girlfriend to the opposite coast because I was 17 and thought we would be together forever. And my dad and stepmom are some of the worst people to exist. Mabe? Wanting to have a life? Mom threw me out the day I turned 18, did the same with me siblings. Narcissistic personality disorder. If she just waited a few months I would have been off to college anyway. I was severely depressed due to emotionally physically abusive mother, and was told that I needed to start paying rent because I wasn't going to university college. I ended up joining the army at 19 for 3 years, saved some money, then got out and started my life. I, 21 NB, was living with my dad who was a single parent. My dad was getting up in years and unable to do many of the household chores. Realizing this and my age, I was paying rent and helping out around the house. One day my dad tells me that I won't always be welcome there. He didn't outright say it, but the message was clear. He didn't appreciate any of what I had been doing, so I called my friends and within a day moved in with my best friend at the time at his place. It had always been an option, but I wanted to help my dad. I probably shouldn't have. For those wondering, I did eventually get a place of my own and my dad remarried. She got him to remodel and bosses him around to do the chores I was doing. I was 28 when I moved after saving a deposit on my house. Best thing I ever did was never to rent, but this was 26 years ago and my house cost £58,000. Mortgage has just been paid off. Jesus, if you were born 20 years later you'd be dead on the street. Me and mine are all fucked. First time, went to university in another state. Second time, moved in with girlfriend. Toxic parents. My mom and I found out about a program that helps people like me develop the skills to live on their own, and she thought it would be good for me since she couldn't do any more than she already had. which was a lot. So I can have sex with prostitutes. True story. I met my now husband and we decided to live together. Jesus made me move out. My parents wrote a letter to our church explaining why they would not be placing membership there. It was signed Mom, Dad, and me. I was 18, so I requested that if they are signing for me, then it should first be discussed with me. Mom said, fine, then you're not part of the family, move out. I did. I work at a law firm now, by the way. They stopped cooking with cheese. I became an adult and went to college. Got my degree with some hard work. Never moved back home, because I am an adult, and handled my business in a professional manner. Joining the military because there wasn't anything waiting for me after graduation besides a minimum wage job in the small town I grew up in. I grew up in the 60s, couldn't wait to leave. I didn't. They all left. I am the last man standing. But no, we've lived in this apartment since I was in high school. 15 plus years. A family of 4 in a 3-bedroom. In 2013 or so, my sister moved out. She went across the country with someone and made a family of her own. In 2015, my mother moved out. My parents were splitting up and my mother just wanted her own place. In 2022, my father passed away. So I'm alone here now. It's damaging on my mental health because there's so many memories and a lot of the space is space I don't ever claim. I spend so much time in my bedroom still, but I've started branching out and decorating other rooms as my own. But it's not easy. I was giving my mom half my check each paycheck because she didn't have a job, and I wanted to save up for my own place because the rules and no privacy and our growing tension got bad, so I moved out. Fed up with the constant rows with my dad. Well, yeah, my parents obviously wanted me to leave after I was home for about a year from college after graduation. And when I was dating, I didn't want to say I was living in my parents' attic basically, which was a 3rd-floor game room. A lot of women were okay with it because they were kind of in the same situation. But really, it's time to spread my wings and flop. My little brother, though, has never had his own apartment and lives on the 3rd floor where I was at, and he is now 43 years old. I remember when he was 23 and still up there thinking, when is he going to move out? And I know they tried to coerce him to move out, but for some reason he's still up there, and his girlfriend lives up there. It's amazing. If you don't move out, you may be there the rest of your life. So move out, even if it's to an efficiency apartment. I know that that's easier said than done. But in my brother's case, it's been 30 years since I first realized that he was moving up to the 3rd floor after I left, and he's been there ever since. That's 3 times 10 years. I had been old enough to drink for 4 years when I moved out of there. He's been up there so long that I've drank myself until I'm bored of it and quit 2 years ago. So basically, he's been up there my entire drinking career. And everything else that has happened during that time. It's just crazy. If he ever moves out, I'll be sure and report out back as to what made him move out of my parents' house. But at this point, it might be them passing away. Then it'll be me and my brother's job to dislodge the tick. What made you move out of your parents' house? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.